Welcome to Driveway DIY, where we bring the shop to you. Today we're going to show you how to replace a timing belt. Depending on your vehicle, you might need to remove the fan shroud, radiator, and other components to gain access to the front of the engine. Now we're going to remove the tension from the tensioner. This is the tensioner here, which we do by putting a socket onto this bolt, put clockwise pressure, and then pull your belt off. Then pull the belt off of the fan. Now we're going to remove the fan. This is a mechanical fan that is driven off of the belt on the water pump. Put your wrench in place, break them loose. Once the nuts are broken loose, we can just remove them by hand. Now we remove the fan from the water pump. After removing the fan, then remove the pulley. To gain access to the water pump bolts, we must remove the top cover. The top of our timing belt is exposed, but not enough. We still have to remove this cover and this cover. Note that this cover has a big cut here and here. That is actually where the timing belt has rubbed through this cover. We have a new one we're going to replace it with. This is held in with some bolts here. Because this one is so damaged, it's in multiple pieces. We're also missing a couple of bolts. Next, we need to remove the tensioner pulley, which is retained by these three 12mm bolts. This was recently replaced, so it's going to be reused. At this point, we need to remove the crank pulley, but in order to do that, we need to rotate the engine so that these timing marks here match up to here. To do that, we're going to use a ratcheting wrench with a 22mm socket. Right there. Now, down here on the crank, this is the balancer. This is a timing mark here, and we'll clean this up a little bit. It is lined up with this mark on the end of the cover. We're going to use our air impact to get onto this. Hopefully that will get this bolt loose. Now we need to remove the crank pulley and balancer. That is done with one of these universal pullers. There are two threaded holes here and here. This goes in here. This pulley has shallow threads, so you want to make sure you use long enough bolts to go all the way in. You want to have as much thread engagement as possible. We're going to go ahead and use a strap wrench to hold this pulley. It is wanting to rotate on us, so we're going to use a strap wrench to hold the pulley in place while we remove the pulley. Then remove the pulley from the vehicle. Then we're going to remove the hidden bolts, which are here, which is missing. Then this cover comes off. Next, we're going to remove the tensioner pulley itself, which on this particular engine uses a 10mm Allen wrench. The tensioner pulley slides out. Now we're going to remove the timing belt. There is a pin on this side that keeps the timing belt from walking off. Just slide it out and then peel it off of the crank pulley. Now we're ready to install our new timing belt. Crank and gears are good in place. We're just going to carefully loop the bottom of the belt on the crank pulley. We want to pull a little bit of tension on the belt, but not enough to stretch it or rotate the crank. Just enough to get the teeth to align on the first cam gear. Follow it around. Make sure that the cogs align on the second cam gear. There's this pin right here. You want to make sure that your belt goes in between the pin and the pulley. First, I'm going to install the tensioner spring This little rubber cap stays on and it just slides up in here like so. This pin does not get removed until we're done with the timing belt. Then we're going to reinstall the bolts. Then we torque the tensioner bolts on this particular car to about 20 foot-pounds. Now we have our new tensioner pulley assembly. We're going to reuse the original bolt. It slides right in here. The tensioner pulley needs to go on before the belt, so we did pull the belt back off. I'll thread this guy in here. This bolt gets torqued on this engine to 59 pound-feet. When you are satisfied, you can pull the pin. All right, we've got a replacement cover. It isn't great. It does have some wear, but it's better than one that has cut in two pieces. So we're just gonna drop this over, get it behind there. There we go. And then reinstall the bolts. Normally we would replace the tensioner, but this was recently replaced within the last couple of months, so we're gonna reuse it. It goes right here. Then the top cover, which uses the socket head bolts. Now we need to install the crank pulley. The keyway is facing straight up. That's where we've got this one. Just gonna slide this on as far as we can get it. So we basically made this little spanner tool to span the two bolts on the crank pulley, and then we welded it to a piece of pipe. This bolt has to be torqued to 250 pound-feet, which is substantial. You need to be able to hold it. That's what this is for. We've got our tool that we installed here. We've got our socket, and this is just gonna hold the engine from moving while we slowly crank down the crank pulley. So now the crank pulley is installed. We're good to go here, except we have to torque this down. This particular crank bolt requires 250 pound-feet of torque to torque this bolt, which is substantial. Wrapping up our timing belt installation. Find all the parts you need to get the job done at ebaymotors.com.